Hi, everyone. Bill Rentschler in the 1011 Now streaming studio. It is Wednesday afternoon, and that means another edition of Crime Stoppers with the one and only Jared Minary from the Lincoln Police Department. Jared, are you surviving the cold and snowy conditions that we've had to start the new year?
I was lucky enough to be out of town to skip the horrible stuff, but I'm back for the mild, and I'm okay with the mild at this point, I guess.
Hey, but you know what? By next week, might be talking 50s.
Are we really?
Yes.
I'll take it.
But, I'm sure probably for you guys, the warmer weather actually means more crime. Is there a little bit of a correlation there, maybe?
Obviously when it gets nice, you get a little bit, but you also get different crime in the wintertime than you get in the hot heat of the summer. You may get more stuff people in houses, maybe having like domestics, things like that.
Okay.
Arguments amongst family. So it just,
after being
it's all
cooped
an
up.
ebb and flow.
All right. I sense a deeper segment, though, on maybe focusing on, all right, it's spring. What are we going to look at for the next 3 months? But have a couple of interesting cases to talk about today. New cases, but we also have some wins to talk about, some at least suspects that we've identified that have been featured here on the program. The first gentleman we want to talk about let his intrusive thoughts win. And we'll pull up the video here. This is the video from Scheel's. Can you kind of walk through what we're watching here from Scheel's?
So basically, this is, like you said, the Scheel's over at 27th and Pine Lake Road. This guy came into the store, and at this moment, he's actually wearing the clothing that he stole, and some of it's in his arms there. So that sweatshirt and hat are believed to be stolen because he came in a dark-colored shirt originally. So obviously, this is him when he came in versus when he left. So we're looking for probably about $700 worth of unpaid items that he walked out of the store with. As he leaves, he ends up getting into he's in the beige-colored Jordan hoodie as he leaves. So we're just hoping to maybe tie into who this is. We do know that he got into this vehicle, which is a Chevy. We're hoping that somebody can recognize the Chevy Blazer and give us some information. We have contacted the owner of the vehicle. Well, I should say we've tried to contact the owner of the vehicle multiple times, are not able to contact him. So we don't know if this person is related to that person in any way or not. So we're really just trying to chase down all the leads on this case to connect it to the suspect in this case.
Pretty ballsy there to just walk out of the store with $700 worth of stuff.
Yeah, it happens. We see this pretty common. Scheel's is usually pretty good at catching good video of people. So I wouldn't recommend Scheel's as being your top place to shoplift just because of that.
You're going to get caught on camera.
You're going to get caught on camera. And I will say that their video with the car there was actually a really nice video. We got a great plate on it, which usually that's a great tip. It's just that we just haven't been able to get anywhere with that tip yet for that information on that plate.
All right. So, again, if you recognize this individual, which, again, here's kind of the still frame picture of him wearing the Jordan hoodie sort of in question that he lifted. So, if you recognize this person, if you recognize this, again, Chevy Blazer, again, give Crime Stoppers a call. Jared, again, as always, can you kind of give us the best way to leave a tip on this case?
Sure. There's several ways to give us a tip. Obviously, you can always call the police department to give just basic information to an officer. If you do that, you're not eligible for a reward through Crime Stoppers just because they are giving you're giving them your information. The whole point of Crime Stoppers is to keep you anonymous for those people that are worried about some kind of retaliation or just being outed in any way. This is the program for you. If you want to go that route, you can make that anonymous tip by calling the phone number there, 402-475-3600. We do have a call taker that does take those calls, and they enter that into our system to get it to the police department. We also have the tip line at LincolnCrimeStoppers.com, and you can see all the cases we're talking about today, plus all the other ones we're looking for help on. And on there, you can follow that to a link, which is basically the same form you're going to get if you have the P3 app, which is another great way to contact us. And the cool thing about the P3 app is that we actually can have some two-way communication with you through there while you still remain anonymous.
Out of all the ways to leave a tip, Jared, what is your favorite?
I think the P3 app, originally I was kind of apprehensive about an app and being able to communicate back and forth. But I will say the company that created this, I've talked to the people that developed that program, and they worked extremely hard to make sure that any information going through that system, there's no way that it can ever be tracked back to you. And so with that being said, and the fact that many times with an investigator on a case will get a great tip, but there's maybe something that somebody might have really known, but they just didn't include it because they didn't think the way an officer might think about the case, or maybe we know something we're not releasing to the public, and that person probably knows it based on what they've said. The cool thing is with that ability for us to kind of have a communication with them, we can ask those follow-up questions. Whereas if you call or you just leave it online, there's a chance that we can't connect with you in that way. And some people want that, but I will say for an investigator standpoint, some of those investigators are like, well, is there any way I can contact this person? It's
No,
like, well,
no, you
that's
can't.
the whole point.
Yeah.
So
No, you cannot.
yeah, so I think the P3 app is great because it actually gives us the ability to do that without risking that anonymity.
All right, good deal. So case number 2 then, someone, I'm sure this is probably something we see a lot.
Yeah, it happens.
And this was someone who is passing some fake money.
Yep.
So can you kind of walk us through this picture here of this individual who you think is passing fake $100 bills?
He is. I think it's kind of interesting because it's the first time I've ever heard of this, and maybe it's happened, but he's kind of chosen an interesting way of doing it. He's going to movie theaters around town and buying a movie ticket with his fake $100 bill, and then he doesn't even go to the movie. He's just using that as his cash out, so he buys as $10 ticket, and then he walks out with the real $90 after he hands over his $100 fake bill. And we see that a lot with fake money. They're usually buying something really small so that they can get that small item. Obviously is not the important part. It's the cash back that they want. So that's the first time I really can recall somebody doing this by going to movie theaters. And it wasn't just one movie theater. He went to the one over at 27th and Pine Lake, the Marcus Theater there, and that was the first one we had. He ends up going over to Cold Stone Creamery to buy some ice cream. I'm going to guess he probably ate that one. But
All that crime made him hungry.
Exactly. So in that case, he does the same thing, and then he ends up going over to the South Point. Well, I'm sorry, he was at the South Point. He goes over to another movie theater downtown. I'm drawing a blank on the name of the one downtown.
The Grand?
Grand, thank you.
Yes.
He goes over to the Grand Theater and does it there as well. So again, interesting that he's hitting movie theaters with this scam. But it's obviously worked for him up to this point. The video we got from 27th and Pine Lake is actually a really good video. It's kind of an odd angle, so we don't get a lot of really good shots of his face. We grabbed a couple. We do think that he has a tattoo on his left hand that's kind of visible. It's kind of below some of the stuff on the screen there. There you go. Perfect. So we don't really know what it is, but we can tell there's something there. And so maybe that'll ring a bell as well. With somebody. The screen that he's got there, I don't know if he's actually got maps up. It kind of looks like it. So maybe he was actually mapping out his trips to the
different movie theaters.
I don't know. He's obviously talking to somebody. And so we're just kind of hoping that somebody can maybe give us a tip on this. And maybe, who knows, maybe you're the other person on the end of that line that wants to give us a tip.
Yeah. Yeah, there you go. That would absolutely work. So then, Jared, for, again, businesses...
Yep.
This is something that, a lot of businesses just don't accept $100 bills anymore.
Some
but
don't, yes.
It's a fairly, from my memory of you formerly working at a bank, there's a pretty simple method to kind of sniff out these fake counterfeit bills.
There's several methods. I'm not a super expert in it, but I know there are methods.
But you just get the pen, right?
The pen is one of those, right. And I will say that this one over at 27th and Pine Lake, they did use the pen on it. I don't really know what happened
there
when they used the pen on it. And you could tell by watching the video, the clerk that does take that money is a little apprehensive, but she ends up taking the cash. And then my understanding is that may have even happened at the other theater as well. They were kind of apprehensive, but they ended up taking it and finding out then later that it was actually a counterfeit bill.
Okay. And so, again, for these what's the advice then if you are a clerk, whether it be a gas station, movie theater, wherever, you take the pen and it comes across and it comes up saying it's fake.
Yep.
At that point, you just say, hey, sorry, this is a counterfeit bill.
Yep.
Like, we can't take this.
Definitely, I would definitely keep that bill. One of the first things you do, don't let everybody in the building touch it and pull it up to the light and look at it and move it around, because when we get a counterfeit bill, one of the things we do like to do, of course, is test that bill for fingerprints or DNA. So if you hand that to everybody else you're working with on that shift that day, that pretty much eliminates the ability for us to do those things.
And there's a good bet if there's one counterfeit bill, there's probably was not just one that was
right.
made.
Just like in this case, we have at least $300 worth of counterfeit bills that are being passed.
Yeah.
And so if we can connect those as well, maybe we get one print on one of them, and that helps us out with that. That would be fantastic. So just, first of all, take the bill. Don't give it back to them. Second of all, if you do use a pen like that and you get maybe a kind of an odd result, a little bit strange, there is nothing wrong with just telling that customer, hey, give me a second. I just need to confirm this with someone else. And then take that to another coworker or a boss or something like that and just say, hey, this one looks a little funny to me. Do you want to help me out with this before I cash this guy out? Sometimes what happens when that occurs is the suspect gets nervous and they just leave. And that's what in our business we call that a clue, So
Yes.
they didn't stick around.
No, they did not. And
Again,
if it was a real $100 bill, a good chance they're probably sticking around
Exactly.
to get their $100
they want to
bill
go to
back.
the movie. That's why they're there, right?
Yeah, that's right.
So
And I'm guessing, again, especially, with movie theaters, a lot of those cashiers are younger.
yep.
And, maybe they're afraid or nervous to confront, or not necessarily
Yes.
confront, but handle that situation.
And I think that's one reason that it would be a good idea to just take your bill. Just say, hey, it looks a little funny. I just need to have somebody else. This
Check
is
it
our
out.
policy for our store, and then we're going to have somebody else check it out. That kind of takes that pressure off that new clerk to be like, hey, this doesn't look right. This isn't real. And it just kind of helps kind of have a little bit of teamwork to make sure that that's actually something that you want to accept.
So, again, same deal as the Scheel theft, again, with these counterfeit bills. Again, if you have any tips, have any information, again, you can leave a tip at all of these places, whether it's by phone, anonymously by phone, on crimestoppers.com, or, again, that P3 app, which, again, we asked Jared, is his favorite way
My favorite.
of reporting tips. Some other things we want to touch on. I'm going to pull up the Crime Stoppers website here. Again, you can see, firstly, again, the two cases we just talked about here are the top two cases on LincolnCrimeStoppers.com.
Yeah.
But again, this is just a great website to peruse, and in preparation for our segment today, I did some perusing, and what I found is that we had this one right here. Also, I want to find out who names these, because they come up with some really good names on here.
Well,
But we had some gentlemen that have been hitting Best Buy,
yes.
and it was routers originally, wasn't it?
I think that was like when we just first started
It
doing
was.
these. I think it was maybe one of the first cases we talked about.
It might have been.
And we've had a few since then, at least 2 or 3 now that I know of that were specifically with Best Buy. And so, obviously, as you can see on the website now, we've got that as suspect cleared. The great thing about this is that when we get cases like that, maybe we get just a little bit of a tip, but we don't have enough to clear it. And that might have been what kind of started some of this. But we've been seeing these cases with Best Buy pop up over and over and over. One of the things we found is that it could be a local person, but it could also be a traveling group. So in that first instance, I know we talked about this. It's possible this could be a traveling group because it just kind of seemed a little odd. It was just different, the way they acted. And they knew what they were doing. And for us to all of a sudden have one where they knew what they were doing, a lot of times people kind of work up to a crime. So in the end, we kind of thought, this could be possibly somebody that's traveling. Kind of, they were. It sounds like they're coming from Omaha, so they probably practiced up a little bit in Omaha, decided to branch out to Lincoln. And in this case, we actually had, I think, 5 different cases with these guys now that we've all linked together. There was a shoplift at Baumgart's that was as well. There was a bunch of tools. So that was kind of a little outside the whole router thing. But once we're able to kind of start connecting all these cases, the State Patrol, we had a recent shoplift, and the State Patrol, we contacted them and said, hey, we're looking for this vehicle. We think they might be involved in this. They just happened to see it, pull that vehicle over, and they got the people we were looking for. So
Awesome.
It's great to get tips and get some names to that. And like I said, sometimes those tips may not immediately lead to an arrest, but sometimes they start making a broader puzzle picture that we start putting pieces into, and
A whole
it all
web.
came together.
A web of crime that you guys swatted down. Which is what we love to see. And again, it's always, a tip on one case, which maybe one burglary or one theft turns into this whole other deal where they're actually, they did 4 or 5 of them.
And most of the people we see that we post on Crime Stoppers, they're usually not a one-time thing. They're common in one way or another. They may be having some addiction to drugs or something like that, that they're using shoplifting as a way of kind of financing their addictions. So the good thing about getting them identified on a lot of these cases with that in mind is that we can maybe get them into treatment, or maybe they need to go the route of some kind of formal punishment.
Yeah.
But then you also have a lot of gang activity, and being that these guys are from Omaha, I think there might have been a possibility they were gang activity. And then when you're busting people that are doing gang activity like this, a lot of times they're using that money to fund guns, drugs, things like that might be affecting the Omaha community as well.
So a win-win for both Lincoln and for Omaha. I also just wanted to point out here on crimestoppers.com, just because it's good video, another case in the last week, Dodge rammed. Again,
Yes.
whoever's coming up with these names. This was video from a gas station parking lot, and this truck just backs up and just totally slams into this car who's filling up at the pump, and then just drives off. And so there's good video, and they got, pictures.
The cool thing right now is a lot of the cases we have at the top of our page are case cleared. In this case, the guy heard about this immediately that day and called us and turned himself in. So kudos to him.
Yeah.
So it turned out to be a really great situation in that way, that he turned himself in, and we're dealing with the whole hit and run aspect of that with him.
There you go. So again, there's a ton of good stuff on here as always. So again, you can check out LincolnCrimeStoppers.com. You can always catch our latest segment right up here in the corner there. You can watch Jared and I, or Madison and Jared, and me and Captain Baker from UNLPD, or Chief Deputy. Why am I blanking? Houchin, thank you. I was going to say Blymeister, and I was like, wait, no, that's your guys' old chief.
That's the old one, yes.
Yeah. So,
but he was LSO before that, so that could be why.
That is true. Yeah. That is true. Also, we have one other thing here we want to pull up, because recently you guys had the uber successful Zoo Done It.
Yep.
And we have another fundraiser coming up for Crime Stoppers here. Jared, can you kind of walk us through what we have on the screen?
Sure. So kind of opposite to our Zoo Done It fundraiser, which we are working on for
2024?
Yep. It's in the works right now. We've already set the date with the zoo. I will be coming out with that very soon.
Nice.
We're looking forward to it. I think it's going to grow and be even better.
Yeah.
But in the meantime, when we're giving out tips to the community, or giving out cash for tips to the community, obviously we need to fund this whole program somehow. And since it doesn't get any federal, local, state funding, anything like that, we have to rely on our community to help keep this program alive. So one of the things we're doing right now is we're going to have a raffle. We're going to have 6 packages that we're going to give away within that raffle. One of those is 4 passes to the zoo for a day and some 402 Creamery gift cards. And so that way you can take your family out that day. We also have $100 of Starter Heyman jewelry gift cards, plus a really beautiful necklace that they gave us. It's a Nebraska necklace. So that's one other package. Third package we have is a one-night stay at the Embassy Suites in Lincoln, so you can kind of have a stay vacation, or a staycation, I guess.
Hey, parents are looking at that, and they're like, yes.
Absolutely.
Give me that right here.
And then we've got a $100 gift card to Scheel's. We have 2 of those we're going to be giving away. And finally, Scheel's also donated a Yeti cooler to us to give away. So again, thank you to Starter Heyman, Embassy Suites, Scheel's, and the zoo, and 402 Creamery for all of their donations to help us raise some funds for Crime Stoppers this time around. If you are interested in that, the drawing is going to be Tuesday, February 13th at noon. And so you want to get your ticket before then, obviously.
You know what we should have done? We should have done the drawing live on Crime Stoppers.
Oh.
Next time.
We'll keep that in mind.
Next time.
We'll keep that in mind. I like that.
Yeah, there we go.
If you want it, basically, if you have anybody that you know as the board member for Crime Stoppers, you can contact them to get a ticket for it. You also can go online to lincolncrimestoppers.org/events, or the events tab on there.
There.
Click right there, and that will basically take you to a place where you can use your debit card to pay. No credit cards, because this is a raffle. You are not allowed to do that, and we don't want to partake in people's gambling issues. So obviously, debit cards are the way to do it there, and you can get your ticket through that.
Cash check or Venmo as well.
Or Venmo.
There we go. You guys are
coming into the new age.
So yeah, I was going to say, so new age of you, Jared, to be using Venmo. All right, we covered a lot today.
We did.
Anything else that we need to touch on before we let everyone go?
We had a couple of cars that we identified too on the website. If you want to talk about those real quick.
Well, let's.
I can do those, and then we can move on.
All right.
So if you may recall, we had a couple of cars that we identified lately from the website that I thought were really good cases. Becky talked about them online and through some of the media last week, but I don't believe, since you had think it was.
It was you and well, I don't think we didn't have anyone last week.
Oh, that's what it was.
Yeah.
Okay. So so we didn't talk about it last week because we weren't on for this part of it. But there were 2 vehicles that we highlighted last week that got a lot of tips, and I thought it was really nice. Like in this case, you can see here we had an indecent exposure that was reported to us. We were looking for this car. It was kind of unique. It had a red wolf on the side of it. Man, it went viral. We had 18 tips on this case. So that's really good. And a lot of it was, I've seen this car here. I know where this car parks at night. I know where this car works. So it really gave us some great stuff to follow up on. We got the name. We've followed up on it. We have identified the suspect in this, and they're continuing the investigation into this. Obviously, there's more to do in this case than just write a ticket. But I really wanted to thank the people that did give tips, because 18 tips, and that was literally within probably a 10-hour period.
Nice.
So it was a flood of tips that were coming in that day on that case. We also had another car we talked about that day that was a car that was involved in a couple of pursuits downtown. We have taken that one down. That was a juvenile that was involved in that, and Mom said she's probably going to sell the car. So, not good for him, but good for solving the issues we've been having on O Street with that car. So
There we go.
yeah, thanks again to all those tipsters.
Yeah, wins all around, it sounds like. So, all right, awesome. Jared, thanks again so much for coming in post-vacation, reacclimating to the cold. We appreciate it.
And good news that it might be warmer next week.
Yeah, it might be warmer next week. 50s, maybe 60s. Stay tuned. All right, appreciate everyone tuning in, watching again today. As always, keep it tuned at 10:11, both on air and online, for all of the latest news, weather, and sports. Until next time, folks, have a nice Wednesday.